Yeah, this is Point Black, coming in hard and off the card. Coming with the flu, straight from the barrio, and coming with the heat from the motherfucking street. This is PBN Point Black National News, the latest great edition and the ghetto edition as well. Because this is what we must do. With the facts to crack backs, and the boom beat, the lion ass lives. That's right. One Grizzly is always on the scene. Now, we see today where Net and Jackass Yahoo is up there doing a bunch of bullshit, as usual. You know what I'm saying? They got their Zionist cronies all around in people's neighborhoods as well. Don't think that they don't. This is who they spy for. This is who they report to. This is people like you and I who speak up. You know, they want to come around and spy out and then go back and report and probably record everything that you said. Well, I got one thing that they need to record and needs to go back and tell them, you know what I'm saying, because we don't care, do or die. We're going to fight for the right all the way through our lives. You know what I'm saying? So what they should record and take back to them is, fuck you. Let's get that off the top. Now when we move on here, we notice that Netanyahu is continuing his assault on the Gazan people by all means, because what he's called himself doing is clearing that region in itself, in Africa, in Egypt, in the Gaza Strip area, which is Egypt all together. You know what I'm saying? He is definitely, you know what I'm saying, clearing that area so it becomes a launching pad the same way you have a launching pad in Australia and many other places. You know what I'm saying? We have to start paying attention to that particular situation all over the world. Same thing, we see the launching pad in the so-called conflict between their own countrymen, which is Ukraine, and so on. Yeah, the launching pad that we see, son interrupted me, my launching pad that we see in the conflict is Ukraine, which is a city or whatever in the old Russian territory. And he's talking about joining the criminal organization also called NATO so they could challenge Russia and so forth and captivate that area from there. So they're using Zelensky as the launching pad. This is why he's talking about, you know what I'm saying, there will be no way that when Trump get in, you can't rescind what he has done. Yes, it can be rescinded and it should be rescinded. There's no law in the Constitution that says that a president putting executive orders cannot be reversed. That's number one. And no new orders or no new documents that are written now can also be justified in the court of law or in the Constitution in itself that says that it cannot be rescinded from a tyrant, you know what I'm saying, and a person who has caused chaos and anarchy in this country for years of his career. You know what I'm saying? Using the nigger ass, fucking ass, dumb ass, demon, democratic or black nigger ass, sucking son of a bitches, and the caucus dummies to facilitate the support that has been supporting them. You know what I'm saying? And I guess now they're getting tired of that support and not sure that the support can be relied on anymore, even though they're still pulling out the black card. They open the border, and that's supposed to cover that. You know what I'm saying? All those people coming over here going to be on their balls ticket and so forth in the future, so they figure. So we as Americans have to watch even that game that the Zionists is playing from that position. Every position that you see they have right now is a launching pad. What is the Chinese doing over in Australia, building airports? Also, when we look, if you go to Detroit Airport, I think it is, and you look and you go downstairs and you look at the picture on the wall with a Russian, it looked like almost like a Russian soldier, or it could be a communist, Zionist group in itself, you know what I'm saying? But it looked like one of those. He's in a long trench coat with the captain hat on. He got a sword in one hand and M16 or type gun in his other hand. He has on boots and a gas mask covering his face. And he's on a landscape on the top part of the picture, and then there's a cloud that separates him, and down below underneath the cloud is all type of migrants and different races of people. So that's a form of a new world order vibes that they have put into play that you are seeing going on right now. If you want to see an actuality of it, look up the picture. I think that's in the Detroit airport, where they drill holes under the airport and put all kind of canisters lining up the wall with all type of symbol that represents biological garbage. So we know full well that in all ways that this plan had been long time hatched by that picture that Sergeant Slaughter did an investigation on years ago. And many people have done investigation on it and shown in their documentary that particular picture that's in the airport. That picture in the airport will explain exactly what we are going through right now. So, in more ways than one, when we look at even the garbage that Netanyahu is doing, he's literally creating in that area a launching pad by genociding the races of people from their own land. Now, here's a group of people who claim to have in this book they call the Holy Sweet Bible, you know, that's supposed to be inspired or written by a tyrant himself anyway. You know what I'm saying? Talking about some sweet James, King James, and then you got sweet Jesus, you know what I'm saying? Which is Baphomet to me in all ways. You know what I mean? Because all they did was disguise Baphomet with that picture of your sweet Jesus. But if you look it up carefully, much of it is one and the same. Now, when we look at them writing rewriting these books and putting themselves in there after the mission was completed of removing the African people or taking over the land altogether, because remember it was a war going on over there where you could hear the shooting and the killing was going on for a long time, fire sticks going off and all this different stuff. You know what I'm saying? What it was the British, the French, the Germans, the Ottoman Turks, and many other groups calling themselves Muslim and all this different stuff, moving into that area in Egypt to captivate it. Now, we could go all the way back to Cleopatra, when Cleopatra did the same thing. You know what I'm saying? She was the infiltration into the hierarchy to put herself eventually as queen of Egypt. When she did that, it opened the door to the Romans, Mark Antony and the rest of them, with no defense of keeping them out and let them in, and then was in bed with him as a sexual, so forth and so on. So she's really the key that opened up the door to me that let them in Egypt and had been there for years. Not only that, you had invasions also by many other people such as Constantine and the Nazi bullshit, you know what I'm saying? And you had Mussolini, you had Napoleon, and many of their groups have been constantly, even up to this day, is still in Africa doing the same bullshit, such as Netanyahu. So he ain't fooling nobody. It doesn't matter, no matter how many times you rewrite the book, you know what I'm saying, to say that you are Israel or this or that. You know what I'm saying? You are not African. You're not Kemet. You're not the people, the black people of the land. You were never there. You have invaded the land, rewrite a book, put your name all across this book, and then feed it down the minds of generations while you operate in your operation to bring us to where we are today, in which you see that's going on in the Gaza Strip. Now, these same set of people, you know what I'm saying, because they have wrenched and renditioned and reconditioned your mind to believe that Israel is real by writing a biblical, rewriting these versions of these books and weaving themselves in, you think that they have a right to do what they are doing. No, they don't. No, they don't. And they must be driven from the land because they are no more than a tyrant. It's the same thing that happened in South Africa. You know what I'm saying? When that stupid Dutch clockhead motherfucker went into Africa, I think it was Botha or some bullshit, and had the people under apartheid for many years, oppression and bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And you could see it in other countries in Africa that's still going on today. You know what I'm saying? Anytime you could see Arabs still enslaving Africans, then the Africans and the black people of the land must step up and must come to some kind of understanding where you drive this shit out. But see, many of them also are in bed with the Muslims and have been brainwashed into actually following that when it's not their culture, their way of praising anything or anything to do with that. So now they are now practicing their slave masters' religion. Same as you see over here in America. You have a lot of black people that call themselves demon Democrats and following a democratic groove because they have probably signed the contracts and all kinds of bullshit. And they're following a democratic groove. And it's the same thing. That was their slave masters' political party in all ways. So when we look at what Netanyahu who is doing and creep Joe Biden backing him up, rushing to back him up with all this military might with the French, the British, and all the alliance, and even the criminal organization we call NATO, goes to show you what is coming and must be stopped and head off at the pad. If this continues, they're going to also enslave many people. This is where this is going to end up. Second of all, before we go any further, I hear a lot of people calling black people monkeys, which they can't prove because there's no DNA in us with that, but we could prove it on their side. You know what I'm saying? And third of all, the first slaves in what you call this country, the United States, sometimes could be the United Snakes, like he said, you know what I'm saying? But the first set of slaves that hit this here land were not black. They were white. So when you see the class difference that took place in Europe, you know what I'm saying, through the Neanderthals and all of the coming of education and everything, you see the same thing. There became a class difference and a certain group that choose to be the hierarchy at all times. They always the king and the queen. You know what I'm saying? And that's something people are going to have to get rid of, especially in all ways. You know what I'm saying? Because the coalitions and the gathering of nations must come to a more stronger groove than the garbage piece of shit calling themselves the United Nations or the League of Nations. They no more than a shithead bunch of group full of garbage or shit in bed with the motherfucking Zionists. Don't give me that bullshit. So when we see these type of things going on, and then we see him backing him up, and then the United Nations and the World Court and all these different groups that's supposed to be monitoring these things of genocide and so forth and so on, that when these things take place, they step up with a military force to be able to divide both sides and come to a ceasefire, did not take place. So that tells you who all is in bed with these people. And the international community is acting like they have no will or no strength to do anything except sit there and watch a major slaughter because it seems like the New World Order. We see this all across the land. This is where the people must now start to stand up, because if you don't stand up, like I said, you're only going to put yourself right back in the position in which you are running from. Same as we see with the border. When you look at the border, that's what we see. The same thing that people was running from over there, Creep Joe Biden just invited over here. Anytime you could have rape trees, yeah? When you're crossing the border and shit, you're going across the border to get to America and all you see is a bunch of panties hanging up on trees. Rape trees. A feeding frenzy of Luciferian Zionist garbage or shit that they have been doing, because this is the type of world in which they live in. This is why they rewrote the so-called Holy Sweet Bible. Is because they wanted to make sure that. That's why Biden figured that he going to jump to their defense and have been for years supplying them with weapons of mass destruction and killing off the Gazan people and murdering them off. And then when the people retaliate, instead of them getting the righteousness of retaliation against a tyrant group of people who have invaded their land or invaded the land of the Africans itself, the black man, You know what I'm saying? And in there doing garbage, and they now want to defend themselves. You know what I'm saying? They become the bad people. They become all these names. Where, you know what I'm saying, how come they still calling people dogs and all types of shit and acting as if they inhumane when we know they're living people? You know what I'm saying? Reality must speak to the friends of the mind. You know what I'm saying? Don't let people talk your mind into some frenzy. You know what I'm saying? So when we see them not doing anything about it, we know full well that this is the same thing they did in the genocidal behavior of the African people. You know what I'm saying? When they removed them and brought them over here through the transatlantic slave trade and many other trades and shit like that across the land in Africa, even prior to that. You know what I'm saying? And then when it comes to over here, it's the same thing. So who in the world would always be attacking and enslaving African people, the last group to truly be enslaved that long? You know what I'm saying? When we look at the Irish and many other Slovakia, Slavics, and all these different groups, they were enslaved long before Africans. They were shipped to America by the British. You know what I'm saying? I think the British and them shipped a lot of the Irish people over and had them working in slave plantations and picking cotton. They weren't black. Get that through your head. So while you're busy with that racist shit in your mind, you know what I'm saying, your group has bear the scars of slavery long before Africans even bear that scar. And if the scar came from within Africa, it came from the kings who were in bed with the same garbage with the Arabs and the rest of the groups and the rest of the people. You know what I'm saying? Treating our people and the people of the world, white and black and green and purple, as if human cargo. Don't give me that bullshit. So now today, we see that Biden is talking even about even supplying them with high-tech weapons, still saying it and still forcing that to happen. Same thing he's talking in Ukraine. You know what I'm saying? These people are taking over the world, and the world must stand up all together as one and fight against it. Don't worry about people spying in the walls like Spider-Man and all that bullshit, because they ain't gonna do it and they ain't gonna stop shit. But what's gonna happen is that same motherfucker doing that dumb shit one day gonna find himself in hot shit. That's a fact, whether we hear or not. I bet you it will. I bet you it will. I'd be the first one to say, oh yeah, they were right, like they said with the pandemic. But at the same time, like I said, this is why they wrote themselves and rewrote these books. They have hundreds of versions of these books, weaving themselves in over generation and generation of time, you know what I'm saying, as their operation to remove the Africans, and then many settlers and other people moved in Palestine and so forth and so on, and was allowed to be there and stay because they had already weakened the Africans, and the Africans probably, was pushed off the land or pushed back, or even welcomed them in as refugees, you know what I'm saying, also because you got to remember, Netanyahu was a refugee. Oh no, we talking about some motherfucking capitalist sick son of a bitch. Why you over there murdering and killing the people with the help of the United States military might and his crooked ass motherfucking leader that you got in yourself, creep Joe motherfucking broke back bitch pedophilia Biden, who was built this shit years ago. You know what I'm saying? Talking about they gotta find a homeland. You know what I'm saying? They gotta find a homeland for Israel. No, they were Jews in Germany, and they didn't have a land. Germany was the one, I guess, let them in because they were no more than a wandering wanderer, like you read in the first chapter of Genesis. That's what they were. But they tried to switch it on Canaanite. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And all of this different stuff. And swinging this swing around. But the real people that were the wandering wanderers, you know what I'm saying, were the people, the Khazarite gypsies and the Jews and many of these groups of people. They ended up in Germany. And then they went into Germany and they did a lot of bullshit there as well. You know what I'm saying? So eventually, even in time to come, you know what I'm saying, it was exacerbated into a situation in Germany where the Jews got most of the blame because of the things they probably were doing. You know what I'm saying? Even not even agreeing with Rockefeller to put their banking system in his pocket. And this caused a lot of bullshit to go on. But long after the war was over, or the war was coming to an end, or still going on piece by piece or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Creep Joe Biden and his crony fucking Zionist group decide that they're gonna create a Zionist cult and call themselves Israelites and Jews and so on or whatever. And then they said they're gonna create a homeland. So many of the people that moved into the Gaza Strip calling themselves Israelites or Jews or whatever, talking about they're making a homeland, were refugees just like the Palestinian was when they probably came to themselves. So how the fuck you get a capital, you son of a lion ass bitch? How the fuck you get a capital over the Palestinian people or the African people? Because you have been murdering and killing and slaughtering and genocide for generations and time. Creep Joe Biden was no more than an orchestrator of that in himself within his time. So how do you expect him to cause a ceasefire? Is what we must understand. The world must do that now. It has come to that point. The world must do that. We must bring it to a ceasefire. And that's a fact. That's a fact.